Hello and welcome on board. I'm Allie and I will be your virtual hostess during this event. To listen to this quick demo in your native language, please click on the interpretation button at the top of the page and select your preferred language. Here we go. During the event, you can listen to the original language of the speaker or to the interpreting channel by selecting your preferred language. Moving to the top right-hand side of the panel, you can also check the speed of your connection. If you're experiencing technical issues, please refresh your page by clicking on the refresh button. If the issue persists, please use the chat function on the bottom of the page and write to our technical support team. We will be more than happy to assist you during the conference in order to make sure you are having a great experience with us. This is an interactive conference. We truly value your input, so please do not be shy and write your questions in the relevant chat room. We will make sure our speakers give you an answer during the event. Thanks for your time. Enjoy your event, and we look forward to working for you again.
To introduce you to our word, Smart Word, funded by Regional Fund for Development and Pastoral Italy program. Today we're going to talk about practices, tools and methodologies applied in the field of the SMART project and developed within our project in order to give value to natural heritage, increase creativity of a territory, specific cultural site or natural site. So innovative and creative tools in favor of tourist sector and cultural sector. Today we're going to talk about digital accessibility together with Federico Poda, partner of Smart Project, partner of digital accessibility. Federico is going to talk about the standards and why it is so important. Next Tuesday, March 18, same hour, 15 to 16:30, together University of Salzburg, we're gonna show to you innovative methods for digital design in order to improve the experience on cultural sites, museums, and in the last session, Wednesday, May 26, together with Avicenaya Theatre Center, we're going to discover new tools to increase awareness in citizens in terms of cultural heritage and how to tell the stories of territories through theater, such a powerful tool. Before giving the floor to our colleague, Dunter, who's going to talk about our project, please write anything on chat. You can also find there very important information on our project. You can get in touch with us for any sort of information. For any questions you may have, please share that on chat. At the end, we will take a couple of minutes, 10 minutes to answer your questions. Alternatively, you can use Inman, a collaborative virtual panel. You'll find details in chat. Easy access, no registration required. To add your comments, please click on post it and just type in. Thank you for your participation. Have a good webinar. Gunter, the floor is yours. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon on our behalf. Gunter Enemosa. I work at Independent Cooperative, responsible of the Department of Leisure for Everyone, coordinator of Interact Smart. Project acronym stands for Small Museums Alliance Representing Territories. A very interesting project developed by the municipality of Valdagno. It tries to promote accessibility in cultural sites and active participation of citizens in the promotion of cultural heritage and our territory. So this is the key aspect of our project that wants the participation of the citizens. Legno is in province of Vicenza, and in Austria we have Solfelde, Salzburg, and Barcines, Bolzano, autonomous province. So very significant cultural heritage also in terms of landscapes. And the four museums, Eco Museum Valresia, Salzburg, Castellaritzen Museum, Vicenza Valdagno, Museum of Clothing Machines, and also Writing Machine. These museums will be in the platforms that you will find on the domain www.smart.com, and you will be able to visit museums remotely at the moment on our website, as we will probably hear later in terms of scheduling. There will be a digital scheduling. On our portal, we will try and include structures, and we'll find a description of the project, and it will also include the results of our project. Federica, can you please share the screen and go to slide number 2? Thank you. Perfect. This is a screenshot of how it displays, the portal displays. Just a couple of aspects we need to consider. We are a counseling center for people with motor physical disabilities, founded in 1997 upon initiative of people who wanted to promote independent lives of people and their mobility. Reference point for people with disabilities and also for their families, public bodies, social economic operators. As a counseling center, we're part of the Bugriato comprehensive community. On our service is provided on a regional level. Independent is a social cooperative, B-type, and 30% of our collaborators have a recognized disability, which guarantees that we can carry out our projects with an inclusive approach, respecting the needs of disabled people. Our counseling center also provides information for people with disabilities. We have a service in the social area, but we also want to destroy its physical barriers. We have people more involved in private projects, buildings that need an elevator, for example. But we also have projects required by public administration, and we work also, on other architectural projects like sidewalks and all of that. Since 2004, we have launched the official website dedicated to accessible tourism. We have 800 structures that have been assessed by ourselves. We have people going there and who see the situation, how it is, and they try to describe objectively to people with disabilities to access, to give them some guarantees. We also created this guide, also paper version, and a guide dedicated to accessible cultural structures. As you can see on our website too, we try to describe in detail accessibility, architectural accessibility, putting the reader in the position to choose whether a structure that is proposed can be good for his or her special individual needs. Top of that, tourism wise, we carry out training courses on different levels, and we also deal with assistant technology. Independent took part to this SMART project, making available its competences in the field of innovation and accessibility. In our case, using our technologies, the creation of web app, augmented reality items and technology, silent play. So our aim is a accessible and inclusive museum, also through online development within a comprehensive approach, which is also required by the United Nations indications for people with disabilities. This is also reflected by national regulations that aims to guarantee easy access to cultural sites. Now we will talk about this with Federico Oda, specialist of these issues, who is going to talk about the project and is going to talk about what digital accessibility is. Hi everyone, my name is Federico, web developer, internal web developer of Independent, responsible for the development of portal for the SMART project. Today I'm going to talk about in general of digital accessibility. Before talking about digital accessibility, we need to make a distinction: usability and accessibility. Usability is the efficacy, effectiveness, and satisfaction through which users reach objectives addressed to one target, while accessibility is the usability of a product, service, environment with a wide range of different skills. So, usability has a specific target, accessibility addresses the total amount of users that use products and services. So any product or services that are developed can lead to difficulties for potential users. The main difficulties are navigation devices, tablets, smartphones, the absence of mouse for website navigation only through keyboards. Other barrier could be motor skills. We can see this in the web when we have elements that are quite far one another that require people who use a mouse, a wide range of movement. So visual or hearing difficulties, font that is difficult to be read, elements without subtitles. Last but not least, learning difficulties and comprehension difficulties. A person that has newly arrived country might have difficulties in understanding given language, or people with problems such as dysgraphia and all of that might have this kind of issues. So Design for All aims to give importance to the possible needs of final users. Design for All is a type of planning that is addressed to everybody regardless of personal skills. So it doesn't address one specific target. No, Design for All within our project aims at guaranteeing facilitated access to information services and products. We have 7 pillars for Design for All. Equity, it can be used by anybody. Flexibility, flexible use that adapts to different skills and that can be accessed via different media and formats. Third pillar, it has to be simple and intuitive. Let's think about elder people who are not digital natives might have problems when accessing information through digital devices like smartphone and laptops. Fourth, we have the perceptibility, the fact that we need to share our content on different channels, tolerance of mistake, so the need to reduce undesired actions and to be consistent in the position of elements within our content. Next, we have reduction of the physical effort, not only physical but also cognitive. This can be done using simpler texts. And last, we have measures and spaces enough to anyone. So each space should be adapt to our users. Luckily, over the last year, accessibility has gained more importance until it reached the point that some reference regulations were created. The IPA regulation, September 6, 2001, introduced the first requirement for websites of public administration. This regulation confirms the adhesion of the Council of Ministers to criteria dictated by NUCA 2.0. And also, we have some standards. World Wide Web Consortium, the body who gave these standards, whose aim is to create some standards in the internet in terms of accessibility and other aspects too. With this regulation, we have the first tools and criteria aimed at improving accessibility of websites and application and IT platforms addressed to people with disabilities. Also, criteria for maintenance and updating of public IT systems were specified. Interactive systems, both for final users and also for personnel who is in charge to manage them. For example, for a platform to book visits at the hospital. Plus, the regulation gave the obligation to develop new platforms with this criteria, but not the obligation to update existing portals. So we have indication for the technical construction of website. Parallel versions were not recommended, so create an extra version or a copy of the website for people with cognitive deficits, which might lead to marginalization for people who would have to access a different website. Standardization of information and formats. Text is recommended as opposed to images, and the tables are not recommended too. There is also a test for the accessibility and navigation through auxiliary tools to see whether websites are actually accessed correctly through keyboards and screen. Plus, there is also a sort of verification in which the actions of users are simulated and difficulties are tested during the navigation. Then the term disability has been reviewed in legal terms, and by disability we intend any restriction for the development of any activity stemming from a sort of handicap. We also have the Legistanka type law number 4, 2004, aimed at controlling digital accessibility and guaranteeing digital accessibility. The person who drafted this law is Lucia Stanka, which updates the main points of WCAG requirements and the main pillars to be complied with. This law is addressed to public administration, public economic bodies, private firms with public services, bodies for assistance and rehabilitation, transport and communication firms, municipalized firms, and firms who tender IT systems. Main objectives are monitoring the implementation of the law, giving assistance to public administration, providing technical law and guidelines in terms of accessibility of digital tools, monitoring websites and the application of public administrations, reporting to European Commission the results of monitoring, and to raise awareness topics of accessibility in public administration. It is worth mentioning also Legislative Decree 106/2018, because through this decree, Italy received Directive European Union 2016/2002 to improve accessibility of public administration websites and also of my mobile apps. Through this decree, content of the Stanka law was updated, and for the implementation of the European Directive, AGID, the Agency for Digital Italy, shared guidelines on their websites on the accessibility of IT tools. We talked about WCAG, and I wanted to tell a bit more about their history, their mission. WCAG were born in the digital era with the need to make information more accessible. These were developed by W3C, World Wide Web Consortium, organization that defines the standard in the digital world and the web. The first version of WCAG was born in 1999, and nowadays the regulation refer to version 2.1. All guidelines can be consulted on their website. Book guidelines are not only applied to the web, but some aspects can also be applied to other contexts. So, mobile apps, information panels, drafting of words, and PDF documents, which we'll mention later too. From Bookag, we can get 3 or 4 main categories for the sharing of information to final users. So, perception, content that can be understood by all users, that can be perceived by all users, should provide text alternatives with simplified content or to provide multimedia content. In this case, it is important to offer an alternative, not to exclude people with certain type of disabilities. Second, we have adaptability, content that can be represented also in another way and can be adapted according to the needs of users. Also, the position, alignment, and sequence of texts needs to be considered when drafting a document or when drafting online content as aspects related to accessibility. This leads to our third pillar, distinction. Content needs to be realized so that they can be easily distinguished in terms of the cognitive perspective, color, font, size, contrast, using a more sober background, not to create confusion on the different sections of a website. Second main point of Bookhack is usability. So layout for users should be structured so that they can get desired information without any problems. Usability can be measured according to following criteria: accessibility through keyboards or other devices. If all content can be accessed through keyboards or only through mouse without using keyboard. Web-wise, we need to avoid keyboard traps, the interaction of users which don't allow exiting unless through a mouse. Advertising pop-ups are an example. And if you don't click on the X on top, you can't close the pop-up, which is a clear example of keyboard trap. Second aspect, no rush, giving user enough time to interact with content. This can be applied to videos and texts, videos in particular. Third, reducing the limit of too intense visual stimuli, so reducing the risk of attacks. Be careful not to create online media with flashing lights that should be avoided, for example, to avoid seizures. Also, the color and the font of the background might create problems on websites. When we scroll the page, if you have too many colors or different fonts, that can create problems to some people. Then we have navigation to making available all the elements for easy consultation, easy access through table of contents and well-defined menus, division into coherent and consistent sections. Third point for Bookag is understandability. So this content needs to be understood by all users and need to be intuitive. This can be divided into 3 different points: readability. So content needs to be easily read and easily understood. So scanned documents that are all uploaded online are not accessible, while a PDF uploaded online with a text within that is not scanned is easily readable through keyboards or screen readers. Foreseeability, so multimedia content with a foreseeable behavior, which allow guided navigation to help users in a logical and expectable way. Third, assistance in the integration and introduction. When on our website we have a search field, we need to have a sort of automatic combination, and we are able to type and search for the right words. Last but not least, robustness. This has to do with the compatibility of digital content. Content needs to be developed to guarantee accessibility on different platforms, browsers, on desktop, on smartphones, and on other output devices like screen readers, for example. So compatibility amongst the different devices is important and can be reached by using standard formats without using very innovative formats that are not supported yet by all platforms. This is done to avoid that one content is displayed in a way on a given device while another device is displayed differently. So we can move to the next aspect after this WCAG main pillars, but I would ask you to upload the video now. How should we structure digital service to guarantee accessibility? Well, cultural sites are objective of any sort of people because are necessary to understand new information. Let's say we're in a new, nice village. We have structured churches, museums that can be interesting for all visitors. And in this case, we need to consider different topics, different aspects. A website with information on these services needs to give information on the accessibility of structures, physical accessibility. There shouldn't be physical barriers to access these areas. And also, we need to consider paths within the structure to guarantee nearly total accessibility of information. It shouldn't be seen as a service door, but has the possibility to enjoy the same services that for anybody. Another issue is related to information websites. As in other websites, we need to guarantee basic accessibility criteria, correct use of colors, and clear information, easily achievable with a recap of content. Because let's not forget that people who surf online don't want to waste too much time. They is not a in-depth description of a specific site. It's just to understand whether there are some barriers. Also, it is important to provide downloadable materials that should be accessible too. If I give PDF materials, this should be extracted so that a person can access them without any problems, regardless of disability. We need to include bookmarks. If this book has 150 pages, with a bookmark, people with disabilities can easily use these materials. We want to provide free, accessible culture for anybody. This is our mission. Well, after explaining the main aspects to be considered when we need to plan something totally accessible, we should now consider some other aspects. Visual impact. First, colors in our content. So let's not forget that we can't see your presentation. So let's start again with the screen sharing. Can you see it now? Just great. So, in terms of visual impact, we talk about colors because people see colors, elaborate colors differently, and we need to use colors for our purposes to give a better image of the whole thing. Maybe we can use color and number, not color only, and we might add a simple number within a figure, within an image, and the user know what they're referring to without any auxiliary tools. Also, the number of colors within our content matters because it might be confusing for our readers. So it's better to use less colors, better divided in our sections to make a distinction between different sections without creating confusion. Another practice has to do with colors used to indicate actions. So cancel is red, green is save. These are not standard colors, but it would be better to use a specific scheme of colors within a given layout, not to create confusion amongst our users. An information panel within a museum structure, it could be useful, for example, to stress in different ways colors for information panels. The title of a work could have a different colors than a description, and other additional information could be represented below the brief description with different colors so that users already know that that color means something different with a different importance. Another relevant aspect has to do with the very structure of the content. Oftentimes, an alternative is provided: simple language represented by this logo in the slide. The logo can be different, ranging from different websites and structures, but we need to specify what they mean and how to use content in an easy way. For simple language and structure, we have some parameters synthesizing contents, so there is no need to add less important information using bullet points. For a list, it is always better to divide everything into bullet points without commas, not to create confusion. If we see a bullet points, we know that it's a list, while if we see a number of words separated by commas, until we read that part, we won't understand that it's a list. We can also use a list of definitions. If we need to add a word that might be complex, it is a good practice to mark it through a different color or underlining it. And at the end of the text, you might explain the meaning of the word itself in an easy way. For easy language, it is important to use image moderately to explain some concepts. Use of image, of course, needs to be accompanied by a description of images or an alternative for people who are not able to see images. Other good practices for a drafting document have to do with the fact that we need to guarantee that users can correctly read our documents. So limiting use of signs and symbols, asterisks, underscores, because the screen readers read them in that way. Also the use of easy commas, like those in brackets, because other types of commas might be interpreted by a quotation in some screen readers. It is better to use it's better to avoid the use of the N form for numeration and the use of Roman numerals because they are interpreted in different ways by screen readers. We need to verify whether abbreviation and acronyms require dots to guarantee correct reading. For example, SPA needs to be written correctly and needs to be read correctly by a reader. But if we don't use the dots in the right positions, it might be intended as SPA, which has a completely different meaning. Plus, we need to avoid to introduce images without descriptions. Description should always be close to a given image. Moving to accessible documents, we need to remember that documents used online need to be accessible. So the format that is most commonly used is PDF because it satisfies all the needs of accessibility or requirements. We are not considering scanned documents because readers might have difficulties in reading the text, while a written text in PDF, readable text, is definitely the best solution. We need to pay attention to the use of chapters and paragraphs to divide the document, creation of a table of contents at the beginning, whether the document is very long, use a easy language, and save document with a name that is a synthesis of the contents of the document and is also significant. We can ascertain the accessibility of a document in Word. The Word version used in the following example is the Word 2010, and in the following versions, the steps are the same, but the actions are more intuitive. First step, we need to check information within the file. Click on File. Next, click on Information. By clicking on that, you will have a scroll down menu displayed and you will see Property. In Property, we will need to set the title, the tag, and the comments. These pieces of information are not perceived directly, but a screen reader interprets them and communicates them to the user that accesses the document. Subsequently, we will have to verify the document, moving back to the file and verify document. If you click on verify document, another menu will be opened and you will be asked which type of verification you want to carry out. You will need to click on verify accessibility. The document on the initial page will be opened again, and close to that we will have a lateral bar in which the presence of mistakes or errors will be notified. In this case, no problems were detected. Most common problems have to do with the use of table of contents or references in the different sections of a given document. In order to save the document in an accessible PDF, you just need to do the same procedure that you do to save any type of document, but when saving, when it asks for the name of the file and the format file, you need to click on Option, select within the options, create bookmarks using headers, property of document, and tag for the structure of document for accessibility. In these images, I didn't click the check on the check on of compliance with ISO, because not every device can identify this type of PDF as a completely accessible one. But anyway, if you follow this procedure, we make sure that a PDF can be read 100% without any problems through screen readers or other type of auxiliary devices. Digital accessibility verification is a crucial aspect that was introduced with the above mentioned laws. Independent L collaborated with Ajit for the drafting of the new manual for subjective reviewing of websites or apps of public administration. Verification of accessibility requires an objective verification by which the website and application is analyzed, or also the platform is analyzed from a technical point of view, from a code point of view, a structure point of view, and subsequently a subjective verification is planned, and more subjects with different types of difficulty will be asked to carry out some actions to achieve some objectives to ascertain any possible difficulties they might have. Independent divides the evaluation into 9 important steps. First contact with the client. Clients are explained the various steps of the analysis. Next, we have an objective verification carried out by our technicians and website developers. They will evaluate accessibility in terms of programming and graphic choices, page code, different texts with various auxiliary tools, graphic design choices, colors, text size, spaces, interline between columns. During the technical analysis, human factor experts will start to work on the subjective analysis and create a working group. There is a therapist, social assistant, technician for IT auxiliary tools, people with a problem of hearing, people with motor disabilities, and people with problems of sight. Once the group is created, tasks will be allocated to each component of the group. One person might be asked to book a ticket on a given platform. Then the subjective analysis can start. Each person with a given type of problem will be followed by an expert during each step of the verification, of the subjective verification, and then the possible problems, possible issues, and difficulties will be stressed while achieving the objectives when accessing the website or consulting the website. Because after reaching the objectives, this person should be able to use the website to get information. Once the technical and subjective analysis are over, reports will be drafted with the results of each analysis. Documentation created is composed by detailed information as to difficulties detected with possible solutions to the problems detected. All documentation is sent to the client, who subsequently will correct these issues and can also ask for the presence of experts. After that, everything is given to the verification team. Then there is a second technical analysis, a subjective analysis that aims to verify that all the aspects that presented difficulties are corrected. And then there will be a final report that will be also done considering the standards of UCAG, A, AA, or AAA. They classify the websites according to the accessibility level. To conclude, clients will be able to publish on website all documentation that was delivered to him or her, and users of the website will be informed according to specific sections of the website that can't be accessed yet and are not shared with the users. So thank you very much for your attention. I give the floor to Nadia. Thank you, Federico. Thank you for your presentation. I would like to go with a quiz on your presentation to to make sure that what you said was understood in terms of accessibility. We gave some inputs and information in terms of websites and graphics. If you think about your organization or your firm, the website that is used, to what extent is your organization or firm accessible? Please use the link in chat. This was the question. There is a link to an online quiz. I'll give you a couple of minutes to complete the quiz, the questionnaire. Some of you are writing review graphic design. So I ask Gunther and Federico if they want to add something and give suggestions. I think they are talking about website, the website graphics. I share the screen. Better website, simplify images, increase the resources. In terms of resources, which could these resources be to have a more accessible website? I think structural and economic, both of them. I think I didn't get the question correctly. What do you mean by resources? If you have documentation to be followed or specific guidelines to be followed, I think, yeah, suppose so. Let's try and give an explicative answer. Normative resources, I guess. Maybe I can give a general introduction. as requirements, in terms of requirements, it is not easy as a body or association to follow, to comply with what should be complied with. We have experts for objective evaluation and also in our case for subjective evaluation. And it's also important to raise awareness in those who create content. As we said earlier, simple web, a simple PDF that an institution can create or a museum might create to understand satisfaction of customers, if done not in a proper way, is not accessible at all. We need to comply with specific indications. And many people don't know this, and public administration itself makes available forms to be filled in. For example, the person with a specific disability needs an assistant to fill in the form to get assistance. Bit of a paradox. So everything on public administration websites should be accessible. So 2021 is the year talking about digital agenda, recovery fund. In Italy, another purpose has to do with accessibility of digital information to anyone. Federico, do you want to go more in detail? Basically, I think you said everything. I just wanted to share in the chat the link to access the ebook, the last version 2.1, in case you wanted to double check or to understand how to develop a completely accessible website. Another input is that you should start with a sensible architecture. We should compare it to physical architectural barriers. If an architect is creating a step on a stair, it is difficult to overcome the barrier. But if we on the web consider also accessibility, and we also refer to a certified agency, we avoid that in the first place. And this is different. This is different because if you need to correct something that has already been done, is worse than creating something better from the beginning, because these mistakes are extended to maybe the same project on and on over and over again. Thank you for your answers. You talked about certified agencies, also considering what was written here, changing the structure of websites. You talked about the agencies. So we have specialized profiles that can be consulted by bodies to receive a series of indications to improve the accessibility. Is there a specific expert? If I wanted to make my website more accessible, who should I talk to? Who are these experts who can give specific indications to make websites more accessible? In 2017, there was a list by Agi, Agency for Digital Italy, and on a national level, 4 bodies were acknowledged. The list was not shared in the following years, but Now there is just the specific regulation to respect this requirement, and a few bodies are doing this, are complying with the requirements. So, a great national expert who collaborates also on a European level, Bertoscano, based in Venice. He carries out training for us and is always updated, also in terms of the administrative obligations and also in terms of the projects that receive co-funding. So if we think about Interact Smart project, our project, those who have co-funding or funded by public administration need to comply with these specific indications. Otherwise, they might receive some cuts also in terms of funds. Thank you for your answer. So we have a question. Are there training courses for cultural operators? If I wanted to train my communication office that updates the website, are there training courses on these topics to guarantee continuity of access on website channels? Yes, sure. A couple of weeks ago, we were invited to do some training for the museum, a network of museums in Trentino, or also in Predazzo, when we carried out some specific training on the topic of digital accessibility and assistant technology to raise awareness on this topic, because their purpose is to improve the internal services for all visitors. We also have some other cooperatives working on a national level who are willing to do training. Ourselves also are qualified center, and we are willing ourselves to help you in this sense with our expertise in this field. Thank you, Gunther. Somebody else is writing something. Neural, we have another question related to the measurement of accessibility, whether there are some certifications. And if these certifications are compulsory. Well, certifications that already existed currently, those for public administration, the services need to be accessible to anyone. But if I had my private firm, it wouldn't be necessary. It wouldn't be compulsory from a legislative point of view that my website is accessible. But if you make your website more accessible, you also increase your market. You can reach more people, and you can also have some economic returns in addition to create a service, a content that can be accessed by anyone without any problems. There is a law. It has to do with big corporates, multinational corporates, that imposes to firms with more than, I don't remember the figure, 500 million of yearly revenue. These firms are required to have an accessible website. Otherwise, they could be sanctioned and they would lose one part of the yearly revenue. It's not a fixed amount, but it's a real percentage. So, thank you very much, Federico. We have another question on Mural. The words on websites are simplified through images for people with autism. I think we can ask you as an expert in communication, Nadia, and also how we wanted to set our smart website. Can you give the floor, please? Do you want to answer, Nadia? Well, in Smart, we paid attention to images and tried to use images that were intuitive. Also, in terms of graphics, we used the colors that are part of the Smart logo and we repeated them through across all images to create a easily identifiable graphic consistency, not to create confusion for those visiting the website. Images were added with specific sizes that were easily perceivable and understandable by visitors of the website, and also choice of images. Simple images, easy to understood, easy to relate to a specific text, easy also in terms of graphic, not too many colors, not too many elements within the same image, but with very precise graphic lines, minimal lines, if I may. So this is from a communication point of view. In terms of accessibility and inclusion, I would give the floor to you. Well, in terms of competence and evaluation of accessibility, of digital accessibility, this is something other than content. We heard always talking about easy language, but this competence is not something trivial. We have recognized bodies that are able to literally translate a text into an easily understandable text. As a competence center, we also collaborate with another center, Lebensee Center, that are experts in this, and they translate normal text into simplified texts related to our smart project. We also wanted to do this on our portal and with description of the project, the results of the project in a easy language. Maybe I can show an example of an accessible website. May I? Yeah, that sounds good. Can you see it? Great. This website was developed by the association Women Against Violence in Milan, where also independent association is. This is the landing page of the website, quite direct, straightforward. In the homepage, the use of easy language is presented, and the users are explained how to access this content in a simplified way and how to interpret those texts. So big fonts, difficult words are underlined and also explained at the bottom of the page, always complying with the principles I mentioned earlier, using, for example, bullet points as opposed that were separated by comma. Now I wanted to show you on the Who We Are page, each paragraph of the website is divided clearly. Each paragraph also has the book symbol below, as explained in the home page. And if you click, a pop-up will open and paragraphs are clearly divided. And at the end of each paragraph, the underlined word, for example, we fight, are explained in a very simple way, in easy terms, explained according to the context. Here, this verb is not defined in a basic way, but it's contextualized according to each specific case. Also for documents used are 100% accessible. In this case too, we made some changes because before there was one next to the other, but in terms of accessibilities, it was better to change their position one on top of the other to give a better distinction between the two documents. Yeah, that's it. This is what I wanted to show. Thank you, Federico, for your example. Maybe we have more questions on chat. I can't see any questions, so thank you, Hunter and Federico, for participating, for answering all questions, for sharing your content. Thank you, your participants. See you next session to talk about innovation in museums, innovation for the cultural sector, how to improve regional cultural heritage with Lucas De Stefani, expert in digital innovation for cultural sites. Thank you for participating today with us. See you next Tuesday. Thank you very much. Goodbye.